coming. My name is Pamela Price. I'm the elected district attorney of Alameda County. I'm here to announce this morning that the Fair Political Practices Commission has opened an investigation into the undemocratic effort to overturn my election from November of 2022. We have received, on behalf of the Protect the Win campaign, the FPPC has notified us that they are investigating reviving the PAC that is funding the undemocratic effort to overturn the election. Initially, that PAC was called Supporters to Recall Pamela Price. Ultimately, it morphed into something called Reviving the Bay Area, or I think it was vice versa. But anyway, we know that Reviving the Bay Area is a PAC committee that was set up to support the undemocratic recall effort. It is the financial arm of this organization called SAFE, and between September 2023 and November 2023, they donated approximately $578,000 to SAFE without complying with the laws that govern all political committees in California. So we applaud the FPPC's action to investigate this entity, as well as the finances that have also come under question of the SAFE committee, where we learned that they were paying some of the main spokespersons and funding a illegal force that they called a security force. So there have been a lot of financial irregularities coupled with the irregular practices of the signature gathering company PCI Communications that literally paid for hundreds of people to come into our community and gather signatures using bait and switch tactics and misleading people and engaging in fraudulent signature gatherings. So this entire action by these a handful of wealthy folks who want to overturn the election has been rife with fraud, has been rife with harassment of my supporters, which we have also reported to the Honorable Shirley Weber, the Secretary of State, and we are asking her to undertake an investigation of that kind of activity as well. Today, the Board of Supervisors is considering whether to certify the signatures, and we're calling upon the board to reject this illegal effort, this ill-funded effort, this misguided effort to overturn the first opportunity that the people of Alameda County have had in 100 years to democratically elect a district attorney. And what the public should know is that if this effort were to become successful, then the public would literally be deprived of the right to elect the district attorney for another unknown period of time, because ultimately the supervisors would then have to appoint my successor, and the people would have been denied the right to elect someone who actually represents them, who has been part of this community for decades, almost 45 years. And so we are calling upon the board to reject this effort, and we're calling upon the Fair Political Practices Commission to take all steps to hold SAFE and Reviving the Bay Area and the supporters for the recall of Pamela Price accountable under the financial campaign laws, as well as not allowing them to buy an election in Alameda County. Our voices are raised up today. I thank all of my supporters that have come here today to support me, that are going to the Board of Supervisors today, that are speaking out, that are saying Alameda County is not for sale. We had a democratic election. The people spoke, and the people's choice should be allowed to complete the job that I was elected to do. And that is what the public should know. I was elected to do this job. I am well equipped. I am honored to serve as the first African-American female district attorney, and I intend to do the best job that the people of Alameda County deserve and are entitled to. And with that, I thank you all. question is, why do I say that the election of November of 2022 was democratic? And
I'm sorry, that's fair.
Yeah, let me get that.
Making you look so bizarre.
thank you.
Yeah.
The question was, why do I think that why do I say that the November of 2022 election was democratic and the recall election is undemocratic? Number one, in November of 2022, that election was a regularly scheduled election that the people were prepared for, that the campaign laws applied to all of the candidates. We had campaign limits. There was a set procedure under state law that everyone had to follow, and we won that election on the ground, fair and square. The election was noticed according to the regular schedule, so we knew 2 years before the election that there was going to be an election. Currently, the recall election, or the recall effort, has been following a variety of different procedures. When it started, the registrar of voters decided that he was going to choose certain parts of the charter and ignore other parts of the charter. So now what we have is, if we're going to have an election, it's a remix election, and therefore that's undemocratic. There has not been sufficient notice of it. The registrar has not followed the law consistently. He's picked and he's cherry-picked what provisions should apply and what provisions should not. And that is not a democratic process. Yes?
Do you know what spurred the investigation by the FPPC? Was it a complaint?
What spurred the investigation by the FPPC was our complaint on behalf of the Protect the Win campaign. We knew early on that the funders of this undemocratic effort to recall myself was funded improperly, that they were not following the laws from the very beginning. And so we filed a complaint with the FPPC, and it is now been deemed that there is sufficient grounds to open an investigation.
And can you expound a little bit about what it is that you believe their PAC did wrong in terms of violating the law?
There are a number of things that we know of. I'm sure that there will be other things that the FPPC will find. We know that the PAC that was used to raise money initially for SAFE was not properly designated. There are rules as to how a PAC can be designated, and they did not follow those rules. We know that there are rules that require PACs to disclose who their funders are, and they did not follow that rule.
Are there other things that you are alleging that the PAC did wrong that was illegal besides not properly designating and not disclosing the funders?
Those are the two things that are in the original complaint. We are sure and that was back in, I believe that was in December was when that was filed. Because we know based on the subsequent conduct of, it was December 7th, we know based on the subsequent conduct of a pattern of the illegal conduct and manipulation and fraud in the process of the signature gathering, we would not be surprised if the FPPC finds other violations.
What was illegal about the signature gathering? You said that was fraudulent.
Bait and switch was used to, the question was what was illegal about the signature gathering. One thing we know was there was bait and switch, where people would be asked to sign one petition and then underneath they were asked to sign another petition. There were occasions where people reported that they signed the recall petition inadvertently when they realized that it was something they didn't want, and they asked the petitioner gatherer to take back their signature. They were denied. There were instances of our supporters from the Protect the Win campaign who were physically threatened and verbally assaulted, called names. There were fundamentally, the fundamental problem with the way in which they did it was that under the charter, anyone who gathered signatures in this community, in this county, had to be a registered voter in this county. And we know that PCI Communications did not follow that rule, that they brought people here from all over the country, that they brought people from all over the state who did not live here, who have no interest in what happens here. Their only interest was getting paid. And they misled people, they lied to people about what the basis was. Many things were done incorrectly. And we reported those things and provided that evidence to the California Attorney General's office, and also asked him to investigate, as well as the registrar of voters and county council and the United States attorney.
And you said earlier that the registrar is cherry picking parts of the charter to apply to this specific recall and not. Why do you believe that the registrar is, for lack of a better term, out to get you?
I don't say that the registrar is out to get me. I said that the registrar is trying to conduct an illegal election. I don't know what his motivation is, but what the public should know is that the charter provided for 10 days for the registrar to count the signatures. The registrar has not done that. He counted and he determined they didn't have enough signatures. That should have been the end of it. He decided to then pick or create some other procedure that is not actually in the state elections code. The registrar decided that the part of the charter that says this is the number of signatures that you have to have, that part was okay. But in terms of the signature gathering and being a resident of this county, that part was not okay. The registrar decided that you had to put your occupation on the petition, which is required by the charter. But then, again, when you have to count in 10 days, he decided that was not okay. So that's what I mean by cherry picking. It's not that I attribute any personal ill will to the registrar. I'm just saying we understand what the law is. The charter is a written document, and you can't follow it in some places and then not follow it in other places. That's what cherry picking means.
We are not questioning the process. We're questioning the motivation. We're not questioning motivation. We're questioning the process. You had a question. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure it's fair and equitable as possible, just like this process. And then if there's anybody else, and then it's all right, then we can get back to you. Is that okay? Okay. All right. You had a question.
Well, just prior to taking office, did you ever represent any of the recall organizers or anybody who's a part of the effort to recall you?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know who part of the effort, but not that I'm aware of. I'm not sure who that might be. Not that I'm aware of.
Anybody else have any questions?
How do you feel personally about this whole process?
I believe that the people of Alameda County have the right to elect their district attorney. And I believe that what the public should know is that our democracy is at stake. And as someone who has been fighting under the Constitution, for the constitutional and for people's constitutional rights, I am concerned for our community that people would be able to come in with money and overturn an election, that people would be able to come in and bring people in who would lie and mislead the public. I'm very concerned about that, as every resident of Alameda County should be.
Any questions? Anyone else? Okay.
Is there a real concern that a special election does not bring out the large number of voters that are engaged in general election as timely and regular?
The question is whether a special election poses a different risk of who gets to vote. We know historically and from research has shown that special elections tend to have a lower turnout. And, in voting in our country is a sacred right. It's something that I take very seriously and that people died for. Unfortunately, not enough people vote. It is the one thing that we can do that speaks to how we want our community to be governed. All politics is local. And so it's so important that we have the opportunity to have regularly scheduled elections when people are trust the process, that they know this is a time that we elect, and we have a better opportunity to turn out more people. Because trust it, I get it. People's lives are busy, and we often don't take advantage of the right to vote, particularly in a special election. So I think it is fair. We had a general election. We had a regularly scheduled election. It is only fair that the people of Alameda County, number one, that they're right, their vote should be respected. And we won fair and square. And then if there's going to be an election, it certainly should be according to a regular schedule.
Any other questions?
Just as a layperson, Ms. Price, what is the main objective of this recall? What's the main objective?
The question is, what is the main objective of the recall? it would appear to be to overturn the election of the first African-American woman in this seat. There's no other basis for it. We have not had time to have any real policy impacts. This recall started immediately after I was elected. So we were still literally unpacking boxes before when they started saying we have to get rid of her. And so it doesn't appear to have a basis other than a racism. And ultimately, I think what the public should know is, again, if I am recalled, we don't know who the Board of Supervisors will appoint to take my place. And there will not be another election for this seat until 2028.
One more time. What you supposed to have had done within a year? What you supposed to have done?
Well, the question is, what am I supposed to have done within a year? The recall, the effort to overturn the election started in January. The first petition appeared online in February. The first interview of one of the leading proponents of the effort to overturn the election was on Fox News in February, and then in March they started organizing. They had a rally in April, and so it's not that I could have done something in the first year. The question is, what did I do in the first month that made me such a failure in their mind that it was absolutely necessary for us to try to force the county to spend $15 to $20 million to have another special election. And that's what the board is being asked today by these folks to commit $15 to $20 million of taxpayers' dollars for a special election. And we, as I am aware as a county officer, and the head of a department, that we have a $54 million deficit. And so to ask the county, all of us, and the taxpayers and county agencies to add another $15 to $20 million to our budget deficit is completely unreasonable and shows how completely undemocratic this effort is.
Okay.
This is not about public safety.
What happens now?
Today, the Board of Supervisors will make a fundamental decision about whether or not the democratic process and the charter of Alameda County actually meant what it said, or whether they are prepared to overrule the charter without any legal basis for doing so. So we will find out.
All right, we have 3 minutes.
If this recall election ends up on a ballot, whether it's a special election or gets pushed to November, will you legally challenge a recall?
We are consistently legally challenging the effort to overturn this election. My attorney, Jim Sutton, will be at the Board of Supervisors today. We have consistently said to the Board of Supervisors, this process is not following the law. And you must follow the law unless and until a court tells you that the law doesn't apply. And that has never happened. And so we've been challenging this process really from day one as far as how this effort is supposed to go. We saw very early on that there was a lot of activity that appeared to be questionable, and then ultimately it became blatantly illegal throughout the signature gathering process. And again, as the registrar decided early on that anyone could pay people to come here and gather signatures without regard to what our concerns are, that was going to result in an illegal process.
Is anybody investigating the registrar?
No, not, if the question is anyone investigating the registrar, we have been in touch with the Secretary of State, but unfortunately the registrar of voters only reports to the Board of Supervisors. The only persons that can hold the registrar of voters accountable are the Board of Supervisors. And so we're calling upon them today to hold the registrar to the law of our county, which is at the time that this effort was initiated and throughout this process until Measure B became effective, the law of our county was the charter, and that's what should govern. And it has been used, again, by the registrar. He followed the charter in some ways, and then some parts he didn't follow. So you can't pick and choose and remix the charter like that. It doesn't work. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. You'll be hearing public comments from the public, from the majority of the public, who have a lot of things to say in support of our historic Madam D.A. Price. And if you have any questions, you can contact her media team, and we'll be sure to follow up. Thank you for coming.